Violating a deeply held moral belief forces a confrontation with your mind. It creates a structural tension, an acute psychological pain that spiderwebs across the psyche. To resolve this internal pressure, the brain is forced to select between two distinct psychological paths. Radical honesty is the first path. You admit you are wrong. It bruises the ego in the short term, but it allows the mind to process the guilt and begin to heal. The second path is the invention of an excuse. It is a logical bypass designed to protect the ego from the weight of failure. We instinctively prefer the maze of our own excuses. Decrypting why we choose that delusion is the first step toward building psychological resilience. Ancient texts like the Quran often set aside moral instruction to focus purely on describing human nature. By mapping out these default behaviors, the text functions as a diagnostic manual for the human mind. The assessment is blunt. We arrive with traits like panic, greed, and haste already installed. These are our baseline settings. Personal growth requires us to drop the illusion of a perfect nature. We must have the honesty to confront these inherent flaws, rather than hiding them behind a mask of virtue. Self-deception only gains a foothold when we arrogantly deny that this flawed baseline exists. Dr. Naif bin Nahar categorizes every human mistake into one of three distinct psychological archetypes. The first is the error of ignorance. Mirroring the story of the angels, this is a mistake committed simply because the mind lacked the necessary facts. The honest response here is instant. The mind receives the missing data, admits it didn't know, and corrects its trajectory. The second is the error of weakness. Like the archetype of Adam, this occurs when you know the truth, but your willpower fails, and you give in to a momentary temptation. Admitting the failure outright allows the psyche to process the guilt and move forward. The final category is the error of rebellion, mirroring the archetype of Iblis. You know the truth, but your arrogance refuses to submit to it. This rebellion is the most dangerous trap. It uses intelligence to disguise a moral failure as a superior, logical choice. The mechanism of rebellion scales to the societal level when the weight of collective guilt becomes too heavy to bear. Consider the psychological impact of witnessing global atrocities. The scale of the suffering creates a pressure that demands an internal response. To avoid the pain of admitting powerlessness or cowardice, the mind chooses to intellectualize the failure to act. We construct false philosophies, blaming the victims or citing geopolitical complexity to rewrite the rules of morality until our inaction feels justified. When we contort our ethics to avoid feeling guilty, our own intelligence becomes the architect of a new delusion. This exposes the gap between raw intelligence, or al-faqih, and ethical wisdom, known as al-rushd. A high IQ is a double-edged tool. It provides the analytical power that constructs and sustains the internal logic of a lie. Wisdom, or al-rushd, is the application of objective honesty to anchor that intelligence to reality. The highest standard of this honesty is the willingness to be a witness for justice, even when not justice indicts your own actions. Psychological resilience is the bravery to admit a human weakness, drop the logic of rebellion, and begin the steep climb upward.